I'm here with Jacob Mandel from Texas Capital Bank. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Yeah.
I just want
Thanks
to
for.
say, I just want to say thank you for taking up this interview. It's really appreciated. I first want to list off the goals for the interview. So throughout the interview, I want to learn more about Ohio State's business program. I want to figure out if finance is right for me. I want to learn about the pros and cons of working in finance. I want to learn about the road it takes to become successful in your field. I want to learn about the workload of the job that you're currently working at Texas Capital Bank. Um, I also want to learn about what I can do now if I want to go into finance, how to be more successful, what I can do now to like help myself out. And last, I want to learn about how the finance world has changed over the years and where it's going.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's get right into it. So you went to Ohio State. I'm interested in Ohio State as well. Uh, so tell me about like the Fisher School of Business and how it prepared you for life or your the work.
Yes. Yeah. So I went to Ohio State and I graduated in 2018. And I think Ohio State really set me up for success professionally. I think the Fisher School of Business does a really great job while you're there as a student to prepare you for not only your career, but also the interview process as a student. And so a lot of my classes were really focused on networking and, how to construct and like build out your resume and thing like some of the softer skills that are really important when you're looking for a job as well. So we made LinkedIn profiles and started making connections, and then I was also in a program within Fisher that really focused on interview prep as well. And so we did a lot of practice mock interviewing to get ready for some of the questions that are typically asked in interviews. And then, of course, the classroom material, just the curriculum, prepared me really well for a career in finance as well. But yeah, I think overall Ohio State was a really positive experience, and it's a big school, and so you meet people from all over, and it was really fun, I guess, meeting
Yeah.
people you would normally run into or talk to, and kind of hearing about their stories and where they're from, and yeah, so it was a really positive experience.
That's awesome. I'm so excited. I think I'm gonna go up to Columbus soon. So yeah, I'm super excited to check out. I've heard great things from Ohio State. Um,
Yeah.
so like going in when you were going into the Ohio State, did you know you were like going into finance right away or
I did not. So I knew I wanted to do business. And so I kind of looked at the majors, and luckily at Ohio State, you don't have to declare for a specific track within the business school right away. So you can do general, and then through your general elective or your general business courses prior to major specific courses, you have a lot of electives that expose you to different fields within business, and I felt like finance really stuck out to me because I think I've always been a little more analytical, and I think the analytical aspects of finance were more appealing to me than some of the other routes like marketing or supply chain. And so it was kind of the route I ended up deciding to stick with, and yeah, I found it to be the most interesting.
yeah, I think that's really cool how like Ohio State like gives you the option to kind of explore before you go into like one like for like 100%. I'm sure some other colleges don't really give you that option. So yeah, that I think that is really cool.
Yeah,
So
and
wait, go ahead.
oh, I was just gonna say, yeah, and I mean, outside of just doing courses to expose you to different majors as well, a lot of our professors were industry professionals for many years that had retired from working to be a professor, and so they talk a lot about their experiences, and then there was, in addition to career fairs for the entire university, the School of Business had its own career fair too. And so that was another great opportunity to kind of network and meet with people in a variety of different fields and listen to them talk about their experiences and their jobs. And that also, I think, helped me narrow down that I wanted to go into finance and specifically banking.
Yeah. And I'm sure was there a lot of internship options like when you're getting like later into your years at Ohio State and
Yes, yeah. So really, it happens a lot faster than you'd expect. It certainly happened faster than I'd expect. But you start looking for internships really your summer after your sophomore year is when some of these companies start offering them. And so yeah, there are a lot of, like I said, the career fairs within the School of Business, but it comes at you fast. And so I think they did a good job, like I mentioned, of making sure you were prepared for interviews and making sure that your resume was up to date. But yeah, it happens quick. But yeah, a lot of internship opportunities. Luckily, with companies they'd come in and they'd be in a classroom or something, and you could drop in and listen to them. Or sometimes they'd have little tables set out in the common area in between some of the Fisher buildings. And so on your way to class, they'd stop you and they'd give you like an elevator pitch on their company. And so that was really cool. That was a cool way too to kind of find out about some new paths and different paths that you can take even within your specific major.
yeah. So like what internships did you do while you're at Ohio State?
Yeah, so I think I did 3 internships. And so the first internship I did, I ran track for Ohio State. And so there was a Bucks Go Pro internship, it was called, and it was specifically for student athletes to give them professional experience. And so that was really cool. Not only did I get professional experience, but I got to meet a lot of athletes in different sports, which was really cool. It was a lot of fun. But during the interview process, they kind of asked you what your interests were. And since I was a finance major, I said, I'm looking for something analytical, something, professional analytical. And they decided to place me in the Office of Compliance and Integrity for the university for that internship. And so that was really cool. I looked at a lot of reports for compliance matters and saw like the university balance sheet and stuff like that. And so it was a really, really positive experience. And then that set me up for an internship as an analytics intern at a medical supply and repair company, a small company outside of Columbus. And there I kind of helped generate all service order reports in Excel. And so that was another really positive experience and my first kind of true internship experience outside of the university. And then of course the third internship I did the summer after my junior year was at Texas Capital Bank, where I'm now currently employed. And so I came down here and I was an intern in our finance group. And then the internship, they kind of treat it like an 8-week long interview. And then fortunately at the end of that, those 8 weeks, I was received a full-time offer to join Texas Capital Bank down here in Dallas after graduation.
That's awesome. So one thing I'm like kind of confused about with the finance thing is like what's the difference between like finance and accounting? Because they seem like very similar in many
Mm-hmm.
ways.
Yeah, and there is a lot of overlap. And so one thing that I wish I did a lot more of at OSU is I wish I would have taken more accounting courses, because my job now is heavily centered around accounting, and I still find myself looking up accounting rules and stuff like that. But I'd say accounting is more so looking at the financials of a company and preparing financials and displaying them correctly in accordance with GAAP, which is the generally accepted accounting principles. And so it's a lot of recording data and presenting it in the appropriate manner. Whereas I think finance is more not necessarily projection, but it's more valuation, I'd say. And
Okay.
so as opposed to just preparing the statements and assessing the data and presenting it in the clean way according to GAAP, I'd say it's more valuation based, like valuing companies or looking at cash flow and stuff like that. So that's kind of what drove me that way, because I thought it would have been more interesting to get into some of the business valuation aspects.
Yeah, that's
So
cool. So tell me a little bit about like what you do at Texas Capital Bank.
yeah, so I've been with Texas Capital Bank now 2.5 years, and so I think like I said, I interned there, and it's kind of cool. They have a nice track for young professionals. And so after the internship, I accepted an offer into the commercial banking development program. And that was a 10-month long program. And you kind of rotated around through different groups at Texas Capital Bank and got exposed to, functions of different groups and kind of different career paths you could take at a financial institution. And then as well as, developing a better understanding of what actually a commercial bank entails. Because I think that's one thing, at Ohio State, it's like, well, I know banks make loans, but there's just so much more that a commercial bank can offer, and that Texas Capital Bank offers through a lot of our different business groups. And so we rotated around, and I think we rotated through private wealth, so high net worth individuals and banking them, commercial real estate banking, commercial and industrial banking, and then we have mortgage warehousing and broker dealer and all sorts of crazy fun groups. But ultimately, I decided to do commercial and industrial banking after the program. And so at the end of the credit analyst program there for 10 months, then we got to interview for our full-time placements. And I interviewed and received an offer for our commercial and industrial banking group supporting Dallas corporate banking. And so then I joined that team, and I've been with that team about 1.5 years now. So I'm a commercial and industrial underwriter. So I underwrite small, mid-sized companies, primarily in the Dallas area and in Texas, although we do have some clients that are national. But so basically my job function is as an underwriter to, I guess, take in requests from our bankers, our line side partners, and I look at the financial statements, and I'll run financial spreads. So we take the financial statements, put them in our system, and then I run a cash flow model, and then I take the financial analysis from the cash flow model, and then my own research that I've done on the industry and the company itself, and then I compile everything and type it all into a report that gets submitted for approval.
Okay,
So
sweet. So what was like so you said like commercial, industrial. So like what's the difference between like those different types of finance?
yeah, that's a great question. And I know I apologize. Banking is one of those industries with a ton of acronyms and I guess like banking jargon and stuff. And so yeah, if I'm saying something that you don't know, yeah, just absolutely ask. There's a lot of acronyms and stuff like that. And so that is an acronym. We call it C&I for commercial and industrial. And so really what that means is it's just regular, the classic examples like widget manufacturers. So, just companies that manufacture, I don't know, we could have a company that manufactures like door hinges or something, or like valves for some sort of machine.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of stuff like that. But then, of course, it is just like, it's kind of like a catch-all bucket, because you have traditional manufacturers like that. And then we have like more sophisticated like investment type firms that we bank as well. So it's a broad category, which is why I chose it, because I think like if you went maybe one of the different routes, like real estate, for instance, you'd only be looking at real estate companies. And this way in C&I, though, we have such a broad spectrum. And so every deal that I work on is a different type of company and maybe a different industry. And so I think that I'm learning a lot about a ton of different industries, which is what also drew me to banking once I decided I wanted to do finance, because if you get into a group like I'm in, you are working on all sorts of different companies in different industries, and it's a great way to just expose yourself and learn so much about these companies. And then ultimately, if you decide to leave banking, you can go and, like, oh, I've worked on a couple of companies in this industry, and I find that industry really interesting. I want to go work there. And so it's a great way to expose yourself to and learn about so many different things. And so I think that's another important skill
Mhm.
for finance and banking, especially, is the desire to learn, and the will, like, be willing to kind of learn new things, because every deal is different, and I think that's what draws a lot of people to it. They don't want to get stuck in the routine, doing the same thing over and over every single day. It gets kind of boring. And
Mhm.
so I think that draws a lot of people to banking, because it really, fuels their desire to learn, and you're working on different deals all the time, and
Yeah.
constantly learning. I've been in my job for a year and a half now, and I feel like I'm learning something new every day. And so,
Yeah.
um, yeah, it's exciting. I don't know.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like how it switches up every day. I don't know if I could do like the same type of thing every day like that. So I'm sure you're
Yeah.
pretty good at it too.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And you may be working on one deal and you're like, "Oh my gosh, this is just a pain," and then luckily you can get that one approved, and then whole
Yeah,
different
totally.
industry.
Yeah. Do
So
like companies, so do they just come like once? So what is like underwriting? Because I'm kind of confused on what.
yeah, I don't think I explained that very well. So basically, like, I guess it would be helpful to explain, like, the structure. So there are kind of two sides that we operate, and there's, like, the line side, they call it, which is our traditional bankers, and they're the individuals that are going out there and they're trying to win the business, and they're the primary contact point for our customers. And so, they're out there networking, and they're at these events trying to get business. And then there's the credit side, and that has us in underwriting, and then excuse me, our credit officers, who ultimately make, like, final loan decisions. And so basically how the process works is a banker will, they'll get a business, they'll get a client, and they'll decide, we want to offer a certain debt product to this client. Um, and so then they'll submit the request to us in underwriting. And then our job is to take the financials that the company submits and make the cash flow model based on their ability to repay the banker's recommended debt facility. And so we look at that, and we're like, if this is the size of the loan that we decide to go with, this is the repayment ability. And then I type about research the industry and the management, and all their collateral, if we have collateral. And so it's really, underwriting is truly risk assessment and research. And then you put all of that into the report. They're qualitative and quantitative research, and then ultimately it goes to the credit officers to make the final decision, and they sign off on it, and then we send the money out the door. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, what happens when like a company can't pay the loan, or like so you guys like predict it
yes.
wrong and it.
Yeah, unfortunately, that happens more often than, of course, you'd want it to. That's just part of banking. Sometimes there are unforeseen circumstances, and companies, they can get into some tight spots. And so we have a separate group at our bank called Special Assets. And so when a loan's underperforming and the borrower is not making payments anymore, it'll go to a special assets group. And that's a separate set of bankers that become the client's primary contact at that point. And the goal is just to minimize loss. And
Okay.
so they'll try to restructure the payments or do anything they can just to make sure the bank takes as low of a loss as possible, or as little of a loss as possible.
Yeah, has like having like COVID and stuff, has that made your job much more difficult or?
Yeah. So it has. It's made it a lot more busy. I think we've had to increase monitoring on the portfolio quite a bit. And before we would do annual reviews on all of our customers outside of any other credit actions, and now we we're talking to customers probably every few weeks and doing reviews like every couple months. And so it's become a lot more. All of our clients are a lot more high touch now, and we're in more constant communication, especially with clients that were adversely affected by COVID.
Yeah.
And so monitoring the portfolios have that monitoring has gone up quite a bit. And then of course there are some companies, particularly those in the hospitality sector or dining, anything like that, where they've been pretty severely affected by COVID. We've
Yeah.
had to do some payment deferrals or restructures or different credit actions like that. And so it's kept me busy for
Yeah.
sure.
Have Are restaurants open in Dallas yet, or how?
Yeah. So I know we just got moved back up to, I think they call it code red. So I think capacity is limited again to 50 to 70%, 50 to 75%. But most restaurants are open right now. But we'll see what happens with the cold and flu
Yeah.
season on
Geez.
that.
I'm sure that makes your job so much harder. You just don't even know like what's gonna happen next week, and with this whole
Yeah,
pandemic, and yeah, I'm sure that makes it
yeah.
very difficult.
Yeah, it's been different. We've actually been working remote, and so I've been working remote since March. So it's yeah, just I feel like there'll be I'll go through a couple weeks where I don't really leave my apartment too much because I just get up and I move like 10 feet to my desk, and then I sit there and start working, and then at the end of the day I get up and I move 10 feet back to my bed and go to sleep, and then just
Oh my
kind
God.
of do it over again. So yeah, there's the days kind of blur together a little bit, especially if you're busy and you're working a lot, because I feel like all you're doing is just moving from desk to bed, desk to bed, desk to bed. So
My school is really fortunate. We're able to go back to school like full time, which is so nice. We did the online thing last spring, and it was just it like every day, like that like time period of 3 months just seemed like one blur. It was weird because
it's definitely different. It's not the same as being in person. And I know it's some of the I guess like the not necessarily directly your job function. I mean, I don't think we've lost any productivity working remote, but it's just seeing your coworkers in the hallway and being able to talk to people and like, oh, how was your weekend? It's the little stuff like that that you start to miss out on. And you don't see some of those coworkers you don't work with on a day-to-day basis. You may not, yeah, it's like
wow.
you don't really have like meetings with them or anything. So you can go a while without talking to them. So that's kind of unfortunate. So it'll be nice to get back in the office and, be around everyone and see everyone. Of course, when we can do it safely.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's been different. It's been different.
Yeah. So what's your favorite part about working at Texas Capital Bank?
Yeah, I think my favorite part is the people and the culture that TCB has. Um, Everybody, there truly is a TCB culture, and it makes going into work every day a lot of fun. I know we plan lunches and we'll go to happy hours, and everyone, it's really collaborative, and everybody's always willing to help out, and yeah, it just makes it a lot better than if you're just
Yeah.
sitting there and it was quiet all day and you didn't talk to anybody. It makes it a lot more enjoyable. And so I think getting to know all my coworkers and kind of truly becoming friends with everyone I work with. It's
Yeah.
a pretty tight knit group, and I think it's pretty rare for companies to have a culture like that where it's like our own little TCB family. So
Yeah,
it's been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed it.
that's really cool. Do you guys have like teams, like small teams within each section, or how is it?
Yep. Yeah. That's a great question. So like I said, I'm in the CNI group, and So Texas Capital Bank, we primarily operate in the 5 major cities in Texas. So we have a Dallas office, a Fort Worth office, Austin, San Antonio, and Houston. And within each of those, there might be a couple different teams. And since Dallas is our headquarters, it's our largest office. And so we have 3 CNI teams in Dallas. And my CNI team supports one of the Dallas corporate groups for banking. And then there are 4 of us on the team. And so it's kind of nice too, having your little team there. And I know we sit right next to each other, and
Oh yeah.
yeah, it's I like it. Yeah, it's good.
Oh, do you guys have like checks and balances within the different groups? Make sure like group A is doing the same as you, or like keeping up the par?
Yeah, yeah. So that's like I said, it's super collaborative, and we all help out when we can. Unfortunately, just how it is. Some groups may get really busy at one time, and then another group may be kind of down. And so we'll take on overflow from the other groups if they're really busy, and they'll do the same for us. And so we all try to really help each other out when we can, so nobody's just absolutely swamped and everything like that. And so, yeah, I mean that helps. Everybody's there to help everyone else out. Nobody wants, to be underwater. So we all help out where we can and make sure capacity is kind of, spread evenly across all the groups.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys are posted with many different like challenges throughout the day. What is the most challenging part about your job?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think trying to think. I think the most challenging thing would probably be some of the communication aspects. You have, as an underwriter, you have your credit officers on the credit side and your bankers, and sometimes those interests aren't aligned. And I think there are a lot of personalities and stuff like that. And so it's just kind of learning some of those soft skills and how to effectively communicate with some of the bankers, and how to effectively communicate capacity has been a challenge. But you get better at it the more you do it. But I remember when I first started, it's like stuff like asking for more time on an assignment, or asking for help and speaking up. And it's just, it can seem kind of challenging because, you're new, and you don't want them to think you're not capable, and you don't want to upset them by pushing back on a timeline. But, if you're helping out with like some deals from a different group, and you don't have capacity to get, a certain assignment done, you have to make sure you're just proactively communicating. And so I think that's been a challenge. And I think that's a huge piece of advice. Just communication is very key, and just being very, very transparent with your assignments, and making sure you're being very proactive in communicating, and setting timelines and deadlines for yourself. And then, of course, balancing some of the hard and soft deadlines as well. So just time management and communication, I think, have been a challenge.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure the communication part is even harder now when you guys are all at home. You're not all in one spot.
Yes, exactly. That was a little bit of an adjustment. When you're not face to face, and I think it can get hard too. You have to. I know people. My boss always says you just have to assume everybody has the best of intentions when they're emailing you now, because beforehand we'd be in person in a meeting, or you could walk down to their office and they'd be like, "Hey, can you get this to me today?" Or you'd be like, "I can get this back to you later." But sometimes in an email, you can't tell the tone, and it may come across as like, "Oh wow, why did they say it like that?" And they're like, "Oh no, I didn't mean to be snappy or anything. It's just
Lost
it's just like."
translation.
Yeah, exactly. It's just you can't tell tone and intention in emails and some of the virtual stuff. So just kind of getting used to that, and yeah, had it brought its own set of challenges.
Yeah. So what does your like usual day at TCB look like?
Yeah, I guess that's another pro or con depending on I guess your personality type with banking. I know we talked about CNI it being a ton of different industries, and every day is kind of new, and you're constantly, working on different stuff. And yeah, with that, the schedule isn't super rigid. And so I feel like there are lots of ups and downs, and just based solely on deal volume and deal flow. And so, I mean, a typical day, I'd log on. I typically get started at about 8:15, and I'd log on, and you get caught up on emails, and then we'll have like morning pipeline meetings to make sure everybody on our team kind of is up to speed on what we're juggling at the moment. And then yeah, typically don't have a whole lot of meetings. It's kind of your own time to be working on stuff, and just doing research on companies, and sitting in on calls. And so that's kind of what I mean by the ups and downs. When you're not very busy, you may only have like one meeting every day, and it might be like a 15-minute pipeline update, versus when you get really busy and you're working on a ton of deals, you may have borrower calls throughout the day, and your whole calendar may be blocked out with just borrower calls and meetings. But then you still have to get your assignments done and meet the deadline. So then you have to stay up a little later and make sure you still get all your work done, since your day was mostly comprised of meetings. But yeah, I think a lot of it's just sitting down, checking emails, and then getting to work, and looking at the spreads, and doing the cash flow models, and doing the research, and typing the reports. And so I think that's some good advice. And one thing that I didn't really realize going into finance and banking, it is a lot of writing, and a lot of business writing. And so I know one of your questions was what you can be doing now. Even if you aren't going to, go into a career with, like English or something like that, or like journalism, writing. I was like, oh, I'm not going to be a journalist, so I'm never going to have to write. And that just couldn't have been further from the truth. So I think no matter what you do, writing is really, really important. And so being able to, effectively communicate and articulate your thoughts into writing. And so I'd say really, really focus on writing and becoming a effective business writer.
Yeah. So what do you like see that like in common with all the people that are like successful in your field? Like, do you see traits that are like that you can tell that they're successful because of that, and like throughout many successful people?
Yeah. I'd say a lot of successful people in my field network very well. It's a lot of soft skills. It's having the ability to relate and connect and talk to a lot of different people, and being sure to follow up with the people you connect with, remembering the people you connect with and you meet. And then just being extremely hardworking, and really, really focusing on your work, and making sure that you're putting out good product, like high quality stuff with your name on it. But I'd say networking is extremely important, and getting to know a lot of people across the bank. And I'd say that's one thing that sets people apart. You can do a lot of really great work, but if nobody knows who you are, it can only, in some cases take you so far. And so you really have to own your own career path, and make sure you're setting up, coffees, and putting time on people's calendar to go grab coffee, and just making sure you are following your path, and taking your career into your own hands. And I think that was some good advice. You really own it. Nobody's going to go out there and get you your dream job for you. You have to put in the work, and really, really own your career, and find what interests you, and then just have the drive and determination to network with people in that field, and or in that position, and be willing to learn. Don't be afraid to ask questions. I think successful people in banking are extremely curious, and they have a strong desire to learn. And so I think, yeah, just networking, having good personal skills, a desire to learn, yeah, and then just being extremely driven and curious, and just ask a lot of questions. People don't expect you to know everything, and I think if you have a lot of questions and you ask a lot of questions, it kind of displays your desire to learn, and it'll help you out.
Awesome. Well, I got through all my questions. Thank you very much for taking the time out of your very busy day to do this interview with me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for setting this up. And yeah, if you have any more questions on finance or banking or Ohio State especially, absolutely reach out, and I'd be happy to chat with you again about those.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
See ya.
See ya.